Folks, hello, and welcome to Tavern Chat. No, fucking talking crit. You know what? I can't get this right. I screwed it up on Friday. Oh my god,
Oh, dude,
with Glenn. No, it's not Glenn. Oh, it's
dude,
Joe.
this is Tavern Chat. This isn't Tavern Chat, baby.
Well,
This is
it's a
Talking
tavern.
Crit.
It's the Tenkar's Tavern channel. By the way, we started a little bit late because, as you can tell, I'm confused, and I
Oh
invited the
yeah.
wrong co-host. I was like, "What's taking Mike so long?" Well, Mike can't log in if I invite
Oh,
Glenn. I mean, that's
oh.
just. I mean, no slight to either or. I just totally screwed
Glenn was
him.
probably so excited. He thought he hit the big time. He finally made Talking Crit. He was getting all, he's clearing that big giant voice of his out, and it was all a mistake.
I
Poor,
was
poor,
all
poor
ready to
Glenn.
go, and then Tenkar
He was
pulled the
all ready
plug.
to hit the big time. So
It's the
go.
big time. By the way, we have a couple of people looking to sponsor episodes. We
Ooh,
haven't put it
likey.
into effect yet. Uh, I will blame that on my preoccupation with a bunch of shite going on my end. But we also need a proper PayPal address to get that stuff sent directly to where it needs to go, as opposed to using me as a middleman. We don't want me as a middleman. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. No, George. No, thank you. So it will be in effect shortly. Now, that being said, looks like I'm going back to the Poconos for a couple of days this weekend.
Ooh.
Oh, ho, ho. Well, I can't go to Game Hall because
Hmm.
um, the way the universe decided to put things into play. But Mike, you're going to be at Game Hall, correct?
Yes. I will be there with Frog God Games working the table. Zach and I are doing a drive up there. This may be the last drive we ever make up there because normally we bring a lot of product back or bring a lot of product up there, and um, I'm going to pull back the curtain entirely. We have a warehouse up there that we keep stuff for Game Hole and GaryCon. Well, guess where we haven't been in 2 years? Because the last convention we went to was Game Hole 2019.
Oh,
So
geez, that's
we've been
right.
paying rent on a warehouse for 2 years, and it's just the product is old that's in there now, and it's just stuff we don't really. We've moved in a little different direction. I think our quality has gone way up on our product. We're just doing some different things. So we're looking to liquidate. So we're going to go up there and we are going to sell. It's
Sell,
mostly
sell,
older
sell.
stuff, but we do have some Rapinathics in there and some bunnies and burrows and stuff like that. But we're going to be looking to liquidate that stuff because we do not want to bring hardly anything back in the van coming back. So we're gonna, if you come by the Frog God booth at Game Hole, there will be some massive, and we're talking half off, if not more, of almost all the hardbacks there. Unless it's something new, do have a few couple new things there.
Oh,
Um,
not
but
quite a fire sale, John, because a fire sale would mean that would be a book burning. So they're not burning books, but they are going to have uh, deep discounts. Now, what won't be discounted will be Torchlight issue number one, which will be at the table.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah, we're
and
just giving those away. That's not
no,
discount at
you're
all.
not giving that
Oh,
away.
oh, you wanted money for that? I
Uh,
thought it was an altruistic venture there. I
no,
didn't thought it
no,
was
no, no.
altruism.
Jeff
Okay.
Jones got a bunch of copies printed. He'll drop them off.
Oh,
Let's
okay.
let's
Well, there
not
goes that sales strategy. Dang it.
no,
Well,
no, 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 no,
no,
no,
well,
no, no, George.
that
Not
sucks.
giving it away. Not giving it
By
away.
the way, tonight's sponsor is not Balcones whiskey, but
And it's not
hey,
because
if
we
you're
don't.
watching Balcones, people, set me up. Let's see what we can do.
Um, yeah, we can't. They can't set you up because we're gonna have regular sponsors.
Mm,
People from
well,
the gaming industry.
I know. I'm excited about that. That's good that we actually we went to sponsors. That's going to be great because
Might have it set up for next week. We might be like quasi professional, dare I say?
I don't know about that. We still had like 5 minutes of prep this week, and we're like, oh, we don't have a special guest. We're going to talk about things and stuff, and all right, let's roll. I mean, that's pretty much
No,
our
no.
modus operandi.
We had our a bit of our prep today when I was messaging Mike as I was sitting in a parking lot for nearly 2.5 hours, uh, waiting for Rach to get a DNA swab done. Just the whole the way to ID somebody, a family member who has passed, who's out of state, you can't do it in person, has become DNA with chain of custody, and the only place was a place in New Jersey that was nearby. So,
Oh dear.
oh my god, it's okay. Hey, I spent like $25 in tolls or some shit like that because New York City is all about the tolls.
Oh yeah. That's I've always heard. You drive up there, you go anywhere. It's Texas. They tried to do that in Texas a couple years ago, and there was such a backlash. They shut it down because Texas took all the money that was in the road fund and they spent it on whatever they spend money on, and there's no more money left. So they said, "Hey, let's sell some roads to people, and they could charge tolls with them because traditionally Texas didn't have a lot of toll roads." And so
Right.
they did that, and all of a sudden, all these toll roads start popping up everywhere. People were none too happy in Texas. Let's put it that way. There was a lot of discussion about this with along the lines of if this continues, we're not going to elect you guys anymore. And
Mm.
suddenly everything they stopped selling roads to people in France and England and other countries, So um but yeah, I've heard you guys that's everything costs money to drive up there, right? I mean
Right.
all the
Well,
good roads.
they've pretty much monetized nearly all the bridges. If you want to go from uh, Queens to the Bronx, you got to pay a toll. If you want to go from Brooklyn or Queens to Manhattan, you do have tollless options, but they're going to be introducing uh, what do you call it? Uh, like a toll for driving in Midtown. So
Right.
even the free bridges are going to be basically taxed. What I do find amusing about the New York City metro area is it's always free to go into New Jersey, but to leave New Jersey, you got to pay a toll. Doesn't
That
matter.
makes a lot of sense though, doesn't it?
When you leave to go into New York City, you got to pay a toll. Oh, you want to go into the Pennsylvania? You got to pay a toll. It's like
Oh
yeah, they it's like nobody wants to stay in New Jersey, so let's just
no.
we'll make
Yeah,
it free to come in. But New York City is screwed up because, like I said, if you want to go to Staten Island or leave Staten Island, you got to pay a toll.
man.
Um, there, if you want to go to the Rockaways, part of Queens, from Queens, you got to pay a toll because it's a bridge and they figure they have you over a barrel. So yeah, it
Well,
supports the subways
well,
basically.
we don't. So this week we tend to have a special guest for a few weeks in a row, but we just have all kinds of stuff going on. I will be at Game Hole next week. I'm going to try to grab somebody. I got to work in the Wednesday um, podcast thing, so I'll try to find somebody to come with me. So we don't know who we're going to have next week. We'll whoever's at Game Hole that we know
It's
and
up
love,
in
and
the airs.
maybe we'll just do something where I'll just be sitting around at the booth table Wednesday night and grab people as they come by me. I don't know. We'll figure out something. We'll talk about some stuff. Um, but we have a few interesting topics to talk about tonight. Maybe not quite our usual kind of topic stuff, but it's actually really interesting and important to what's going on in gaming right now.
Yes.
And I saw these articles start to pop up a couple weeks ago, and it's just gotten more and more. I'm seeing more and more, and how it relates to our hobby. And this, of course, is the very broken supply chain that we have right now in the United States, that is starting to affect everything, but it's also starting to affect gaming.
Right. I mean, the first time I saw this, it popped up on Kickstarter. I tried logging into Kickstarter, and all of a sudden it's like Kickstarter. It's not a notification that I have a Kickstarter I have to give information to get my product shipped. They actually had an article which made me believe that I was going to a news site like CNN or Fox or MSNBC because supply chain disruptions are affecting Kickstarter projects. Here's what to know. No, and by the way, they are affecting more than just Kickstarter
Oh
projects.
yeah, oh yeah.
So, but Kickstarter, do I? They're not really getting out in front of anything because this article is from October 6th. and this has been an issue for months now. I believe they thought that it was going to be an issue that would go by and to the wayside, and folks would kind of, it'd be a blip on the radar, and then folks would forget about it, and it's staying. And here, I think, is the issue as to why Kickstarter shared this article or wrote this article. People, and I don't know this for sure, but I'm willing to bet a pension check on it, are doing chargebacks to
Hmm.
Kickstarter
The
for
bane of
projects
the
that
bane of
haven't
any
shipped.
companies, and Kickstarter for a while has always had the upper hand. This is the one thing they can't fight is chargebacks. Nobody can really fight chargebacks. I mean, chargebacks are the one equalizer. Um, I don't know if you remember, but Luke Gygax had to say something about chargebacks about GaryCon a while back or last year.
Oh, did
Um,
I might have
yeah,
missed it.
it was a because I think so many people. Well, this is back when they said they were probably not going to issue refunds.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
People
Ooh.
just said, "Okay, well, guess what? I'm going to charge you back on a credit card." Well, the problem with that is that's worse than a refund. Why? Because if your convention, business, franchise, whatever starts getting lots of chargebacks, the credit card companies start looking at you and
Right.
saying, "Why is everybody charging back on this?" And you could be stuck in the part where American Express says, "We're not going to let you charge GaryCon anymore," or whatever store it is. In this case, it
Right.
was GaryCon. So they were very keen on saying, "Oh, no, we're going to give you a refund. We'll give you a refund," because they do not want a whole 100 chargebacks on their record. So chargeback is a great equalizer, and at this point, even Kickstarter's getting hit with this, and that this is affecting their bottom line in that case.
Well, because remember, Kickstarter's whole thing is, well, you're not buying a product, you're supporting a process.
Right.
You're pledging your dollars and goodwill to see a project come to fruition. But it's not a pre-order, and if you get don't complain if you don't get the reach around because you got screwed. Well, here's the thing. People can go, oh, well, if I'm not getting what I was supposed to get, I'm going to take my money back. And if
Hmm.
Kickstarter won't give it freely, I'll go to my credit card company. Now, the problem with this is it affects projects, right, which are already funded. So the project is already funded. They've already paid out the money. So I don't know how that works. If Kickstarter's already paid out the money and you do a chargeback, do they then demand that the project creator somehow refund them the difference? I don't know.
Hmm.
That's an interesting question. Um, but that is also an interesting issue, right? So now, Kickstarter, remember, the defense is we don't do refunds. Well, they're nervous because this can be a huge chunk of their profits that are going to be eaten up by this for numerous reasons, by the way. Not just chargebacks, but you're going to have people that are going to be gun shy about supporting Kickstarters or Indiegogos or other crowdsourced stuff because, personally, if it's stuff that you're not paying, if they're going to do shipping on BackerKit, guess what? Prices are going up to ship these containers.
Oh yeah. Well, I just read an article. So everybody's seen these container ships. They have all these giant containers on there. You see them in movies and stuff, or if you ever go out to port, you see them. And one of these cargo ships can have hundreds of these containers on there. It costs so the cost now to ship one of these containers is $20,000.
And these
That's
are two to three. Yeah.
four times what it was in January. It's gone
Yeah.
up four times. So it was $5,000 in January. It's now $20,000
And in
to ship one of those.
2019, it was 2 to 3 thousand.
Yep.
So shipping has shot up just to get it overseas. And there's a secondary problem. They can't unload these ships fast enough. So you're paying more for things to
So
take longer.
we'll go back a little bit. So this all happened because so COVID's the reason this all happened. COVID, this had a very delicate balance because what happens is they load everything. So most printing is done in China. It's because it's cheaper. Um, a lot of people don't print in the United States unless it's a smaller project, an indie project, because you can get a really good discount, you can get better paper quality, you can get just a better product by China doing it in China. So everybody was had their stuff shipped in China. No, Frog God did, a lot of companies did, and it wasn't any big deal. Everybody did that way, no problems at all. Then COVID hit. When COVID hit, China shut down for what, a couple months, and so that it stopped.
Right.
All the shipments stopped for a while. Well, demand didn't stop. I mean, the shipments stop, but demand doesn't stop. And not only that, there's certain items like laptops, computers, I don't know, bicycles, toys, clothing, electronics. The the need for those actually increased once people started staying at home because you're stuck at home all day. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to buy books. You're going to get
Yep.
another computer. You're going to play computer games. You're going to do all kinds of
Work from
stuff.
home.
Yep, work from home. The demand did not decrease. So you have increased demand. So you start getting back orders. Back orders start clogging up, clogging up. So when they finally did start shipping, they're already X amount of time behind. Well, the other problem was you have people that are now sick, or some people just died. They can't fill their positions. So China can't fill positions, but it wasn't just China. It was also the port cities on the West Coast of the United States. And when I talk about West Coast, most of the supply problems we're having are along the West Coast. The East Coast is a little better equipped, and they're doing much better. The West Coast is having the major problems. That they can't fill their positions, so they don't have enough people to unload. I mean, you see those things. If you see movie stuff, they have these gigantic cranes. They have to lift this stuff. I mean, this is not something two dudes in a back or in a
Right. You just can't pull
two-wheeler
somebody
could
off.
do. No,
Right. You can't pull somebody off the street to do this work. Now,
No.
remember, too,
no.
when COVID hit, what did they do with their employees? Well, there was less coming in,
Laid
so
them
they
off.
laid them all off
Mhm. Yep.
with enhanced unemployment benefits. So, as long as you're getting enhanced unemployment benefits, you didn't have a reason to go back to work.
Right.
Now, maybe there's an incentive to go back to work as the enhanced benefits are running out, but you've got this huge backlog. They're talking, and I'll pull the circle up later, but they're talking about running these ports 24/7, which they haven't
Just to
been.
even catch up. That's not even that might possibly get you caught up. And that
Right.
was something I know that Biden had talked about just today, I think, is that the federal government's going to give these ports money to hire because they can't hire enough people. They can't run enough. They're going to have to run these things 24/7 for a long time just to get I mean, I don't know if you've seen the pictures. These ships are just sitting out there. There's nowhere for them to go. They have to quarantine because of COVID, and then they have to wait for a space in line. They're there for weeks now. These things are sitting out there for weeks, just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah.
The ports are jammed, congestion. I mean, jammed. Shippers have full warehouses. I mean, it's just got and it's not just the ships. It's the trains are backed up. The trucks are backed up. Everybody, there's not enough people to do the job anymore because of COVID. So how does this affect the game? Where's this coming to the game industry? Well, most games got printed in China in the last year or so.
Right.
And a lot of them still may do that.
Right. And the reason being is color printing is extremely expensive in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Black and white, less so. But if you're doing color printing in the U.S., it is or had been considered cost prohibitive to do so. That's why all you big players, whether it is Wizards of the Coast, Paizo, I would assume Goodman Games, Frog God's larger projects were all being printed in China.
Right. Well, we had a delay on some of our last projects. That's why we have delayed Kickstarters. We have the Necropolis coming up, but other than that, we are really trying to pay attention to what's going on here because there is no point in funding a Kickstarter right now and then telling people, yeah, guess what? We can't ship till 2023.
Right.
I mean, that's a non-starter in every way, shape, or form. So what a lot of companies are doing is they're going to American printers, but guess what's happening now? The American printers are getting backed up. Why? Because most American printers are smaller and they're okay. So they have their 15 jobs, whatever they're doing. Well, now they have 35 jobs. Well, they're backed up to now they're backed up too. I mean, it's just this continual domino effect. Well, one domino hits and it just keeps on going. Wizards of the Coast just announced, was it this week or last week, about they're having a moratorium on projects. And the most unusual thing about this was, I don't know if you have that article handy, Eric, but the unusual thing with that was
I can
they
get it.
they had some big projects supposed to come out right before Christmas. They're not going to have a big Christmas project coming out. I mean, that's major for them. And the speculation is because they can't get the books. There it is. 2021 books delayed. Everything that was supposed to come out between now and Christmas has now been pushed to 2022.
Well, not everything. So some of the titles, Fitzban's Treasury of Dragons has been pushed back a week. Now, here's the thing: some of the stuff that was earlier in the queue are being pushed back a week. Something else is being pushed back 3 weeks. But stuff that was intended for Christmas now looks like January. Now, mind you, any date that is out longer than a week means this stuff has not hit our shores yet. So these are dates that are, to say tentative, to say the least. I would not bet money on this stuff releasing time. Now, if you're missing the Christmas holiday season for your releases, you're missing bucks.
Oh yeah, this is going to be a huge money hit for. I mean, as good as WotC and Hasbro are doing, this is a huge money hit to not have some of these major projects come out before Christmas. I mean, that's your target time. That's when you make your hay, right? I mean, right, from Black Friday on, and a lot of these projects are being delayed. If they didn't get in right under the wire, and I'll tell you something else. A lot of these projects, they're not going to know they're late till they're late. And what I mean by that is they're sitting there saying, it's on a freighter right outside of LA and it's supposed to unload November 30th. Well, they don't know.
Right.
That's the date they're being told.
They're hoping.
So they can sit there all day long and say, yeah, we're going to have this before Christmas. They may not, and they don't know yet because they don't know what's going to happen before then. So, because I know from Frog God, you can track your shipment all the way in. It's I mean, from the minute it leaves China to the minute it gets here, and so where it's at. So if they say, okay, well, you look and you say, okay, well, it's out floating in the outside the port. Past that, it gets murky because they can give you a date and say, well, we think it's going to be in by November 27th or whatever, but there's no guarantee of that.
No.
I mean, you don't know what further problems may come. I mean, what if we had another big COVID outbreak? What if there's a giant hurricane that hits there and delays things? I mean, typhoon season is a big thing on the in Asia, and that always delays shipments whenever there's a big typhoon or a big storm. Well, there's all these other variables besides the fact that distribution networks screwed up. It's really interesting. It's actually kind of scary too, because if you've gone into your local grocery store, Target, Walmart, you've seen empty shelves. I went shopping the other day, empty shelves. I went to the snack aisle, no snacks in Walmart. My grandson works at Walmart. I talked to him about it. He said, yeah, they get stuff in. They don't have anybody to put it on the shelf. It's just sitting in the back of the Walmart because they're so backed up. I mean, it's not just a gaming issue. This is a whole,
it's I'm going to say system wide, but it's nationwide. It's all parts of the economy, and there's multiple factors to it. I mean, again, remember, we shut down a lot of businesses at the start of COVID, and we put people out of work and gave them enhanced unemployment for an extended period of time. And that's great. I know people that were laid off and they needed it. But if you keep that benefit running, when suddenly you can go back to work, guess what? Given the option, if I can stay home and not work and make the same money or better not working, I'm probably going to opt to not work until I am forced to go back to work. An object that's in motion stays in motion. An object that's sitting at home watching TV stays at home sitting and
Well,
watching TV.
there's a bunch of little corollaries to this too. So one of the things is obviously the more shipments you make, the more money you make. Well, now these big companies are not making many shipments. So what are they doing? Well, some things are easier to unload than other things and are lighter and faster. So what these shipping companies have started doing is they've started growing very choosy about what items they decide to ship, and they're getting lighter items and not doing heavier items. And so because they want the ships to go back out quicker.
Right.
Well, this has a really unintended effect. A lot of heavier products are suddenly not being shipped or not in the supply chain. That they want to capitalize on getting as many shipments turned around as quickly as possible. Another unintended consequence is smaller companies suffer. Why? They make a lot more money off of companies like Walmart or Amazon.
Right. They can pay the shipping
Yeah,
cost, and
they
they
can pay
can
the increased
absorb it
shipping
more
costs.
than somebody
Exactly.
that's small.
Yeah, Joe Schmo, the company, and I'm not saying Hasbro is peanuts. They're not, but they're not Walmart or Amazon by any means whatsoever.
No.
And so, if these bigger companies pay more, they're going to get more space on these cargo ships, and that's going to push these smaller companies either farther back or off the ships completely, where they're going to say, you know what, you just can't afford to ship anymore. It's really interesting. You start looking into it; it just has a lot of unintended effects that are going to, like I said, it's like the dominoes going down, and it comes back to games aren't as important as computers or Xboxes
Right.
or a lot of other stuff, food, and they're just games get pushed to the back of the line.
Well, I mean, 2 weeks. Oh God, was it not? Is it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago? I went to try to buy a new car. I was having issues with my current car. Wanted to trade it in, get a new car, and dealt with a salesman I dealt with 8 years ago. Great, and as car salesmen go, honest. Got to say that. And he was like, "Yeah, no, this is great." And he goes, "Yeah, well, let's see when we can get you a car." Now I'm used to walking in and this,
Hmm.
and if you want a car, and if you want something that's on the floor, you get what's on the floor. Otherwise, it'll take a few days to get something from another dealer.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, he goes, "It's probably going to be December or early January." I was like, "Huh?" He goes, "We have nothing, literally nothing. Everything that's on the sales floor is sold, waiting
Yep.
to get picked up. We have nothing." So I was like, "All right, son of a bitch. All right, is what it is." And then, literally, the next day, that was a Friday, Saturday morning, I get a phone call, and he's like, "The floor sample that the floor model you were looking at?" I'm like, "Yeah." "You like that color?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, that's what I was actually hoping to see." He goes, "Yeah, financing fell through, and the person that was looking to buy it, if you still want it, you can have it this week."
Being the smart Tenkar you were, you jumped at that because
I
you
was
knew the
like,
next one that
yeah,
came up. You did not know when the next car is going to pop up.
and then he actually looked and he goes, "Well," he goes, "you were scheduled for late December." He showed me
Hmm.
my order in their inventory list, and I was scheduled for late December. Now again, that's late December, assuming the tanker can unload when it expects to
Sure.
get unloaded.
Well, my car story. So my wife has been wanting a new car, and this is one of the only times my wife said I was right. I take it back. Sometimes she says I'm right every once in a while, but I've been reading about this. I've been really reading about this supply shortage stuff for like the last year. Back when last year we had the shortage of why do we have shortage of toilet paper and towels? And so I started getting into this rabbit hole, and so I've been reading about this for the last year or so. Well, earlier this year she said she wanted to buy a car. I said you better buy it now. Things are getting really weird. There was a shortage of computer chips, which has a cascading effect. It's not just cars. We're also talking about refrigerators, dishwashers, Xboxes. I cannot find an Xbox X for love nor money. There's just not very many out there. So this computer chip shortage is led to cars being, very scarce, like you said. Well, she went and looked for a car. I said, you better buy one before the convention rather than after, which we're talking about, March, April, May. So in March, we went out there. She wanted a red Kia because last time she had to get a white one because that's all they had. They had one red Kia there, and so she went ahead and bought it. So they were saying like, man, we don't know when we're going to get new cars in. We went back a month later. Okay, and we're talking a Kia dealership, not a tiny dealership, a dealership, one that usually has hundreds of cars out there. We came back a month later, Eric. There were 2 cars in the parking lot.
Oh, I believe it.
2, and that's all they had. They had 2 cars, and they had the guys there that worked there. They were sweeping the floor and cleaning the windows. They had nothing for them to do. And we were talking to the salesman, and we said, "Gosh, we hope you guys don't lose their job." They said, "No, they don't want to lay us off because they don't know when the new shipments are going to come in, and they're afraid they get caught if a big shipment comes in, and they don't have anybody to work there." The next time we went there, they had laid people off. That's how long it had taken. Because the next time we went there, Eric, there were 0 cars in the parking lot. I mean, we're talking a dealership.
Oh,
they were just taking orders, like you said. They were taking like, okay, we can get you something. We heard them talking on the phone to people. Yeah, we'll see what we can do in December or January. And this is like a month ago. And this is so it's a widespread problem, and it's not just our industry, but we're part of it because so many companies do printing in China. Now, what are the solutions? Well, companies that do a lot of printing in the United States aren't having these problems, Eric, or aren't having the problems as much. Now, shipping is still slow. We're still having major shipping issues.
Right, because there's a lack of long haul truckers out there,
trains,
right now.
all that kind of overland freight is being jammed up. But if you have a really good American printer or a local printer, that stuff's still coming out. So the smaller guy is kind of able to do thumbs up, high five. They're still getting their stuff out. A lot of the smaller Kickstarters I backed in the last, especially print on demand stuff, I've been getting it all. I've been getting it on time. I haven't received any, because most of the stuff I back, and you're probably the same as I am, Eric, most stuff I back is from smaller guys.
Right.
It's Levi Combs and Lloyd Metcalfs and guys like that. And most of those guys are not printing in China. They're printing, obviously, locally. Tom Wilson. So they haven't had the same kind of issues. Now, I don't know if I'd want to do a sack dance over, hey, we're having to ship product. You can't watch, screw you, and spike the ball. But it has, helped equalize it in that respect, is that the smaller guys aren't as reluctant to run a Kickstarter because they know that they have their supply chain all sewed up.
But now I've been hearing, because of the post that I pulled up that I did on tenkarstavern.com, some of the Facebook comments from some of the smaller publishers or the self-publishers is that they've seen an increase in the price to print from U.S. publishers. Now, why would that be? Well, quite simply, supply and demand. If your services are more in demand, guess what? It becomes more expensive to use your services. That is how, if nobody needs your services, you're going to price yourself cheaper to entice people. But when you're in the driver's seat, when the market is searching for you, because the overseas market isn't as viable, and not just because, all right, it's going to take a while, the cost to ship from China is eating into those profits that people were expecting to get. And now it's like, wow, maybe my idea of printing in China isn't as profitable, and maybe I can switch to the US and get something comparable for not too much more once you put shipping and time into this whole thing. It's
because raised prices, people don't take less profit. They just push it along to you.
Right.
And so I know that Frog God's talked about this, that we are probably going to have to raise prices on some of our products. But the thing about that is everybody's going to have to. It's not just us. Unless you're WotC. WotC probably doesn't have to, but everybody else will have to raise prices. It's a industry wide thing at that point. You're not. There's not going to be anybody undercutting anybody because everybody's paying the same prices.
You can't afford it. By the way, Bill Barsh, GM has at least 10,000 pickups sitting in Flint waiting for chips. We had a crew working in the area, and I saw them. It was insane. Literally 2 miles of parked trucks. Now, here's the thing. Up in the area around Scranton, Tommy Domiano, I believe is the correct name. This guy is a dealer for almost every brand I've ever seen. He literally has a long Route 6 up there, um, probably miles of land that he's bought where he stores all his vehicles that he's selling.
Hmm.
And these lots are empty. And the lots at the actual dealerships where cars were parked almost on top of each other
Sure.
are now parked on these weird angles and spaced out to give the appearance that there's a lot more
Oh
cars.
yeah.
But even then, you have these big empty gaps because, like you said, the vehicles aren't there. Now, do we have a similar problem with game books? No, but the game books aren't getting here. And I'm not saying that your shelves are going to go bare, but if you're somebody who wants the latest and greatest, if you were planning on stuff for Christmas and you're Christmas shopping, you might want to reevaluate what you're going to be buying because it's probably not going to be where you thought it was going to be.
So what this means, if you're looking at a Kickstarter in the next, 6 months or so, be really careful about this because it's going to be late. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, unless it's like I said, unless it's a guy like Levi or Tom or Lloyd or somebody really local. And honestly, if I was running a Kickstarter now and I use local printing, I would definitely advertise that in my copy, and let people know that look, this is going to be out on time because I am not shipping from China. I don't know if you can say exactly that, but I would imply that hey, I'm doing local. We're not
Well,
going to have any
I think
issues.
that I think that people on a Kickstarter, I think we're going to see a lot of the printed in the USA as a selling point. And
Sure.
maybe you will pay more for that Kickstarter, but you're going to have the knowledge that what, it's much more likely that I'll see this in a reasonable amount of time than something from China that's going to get caught in this backlog of uh, shipping delays. And like I said, increased prices to ship. That's a cost
Hmm.
that's going to have to get made up. Now, a lot of these places, a lot of these Kickstarters, they budgeted based upon what the amount was when they kickstarted, and then they assumed their cost per container was going to be whatever,
Yeah.
4,000, 5,000. Now they're paying their share for whatever piece of that container they need from 20,000. That profit's being eaten up.
Hmm.
Um, you might have people who are going to take a shellacking on Kickstarter. Now, I've heard the arguments, well, screw them. Kickstarters, who cares if they lose money on it? Well, folks, I've said this before, and I will always say this. When it comes to Kickstarter, those that argue that the larger game companies, and I say larger, I'm talking ones like Frog God, like Trollord, like Goodman, shouldn't be using Kickstarter because they're too large for Kickstarter. No, they're not, because it allows them to print what they need without overprinting. They can actually get an excellent estimate of what their market is. They will know, hey, we sold 2,000 of this book on Kickstarter, and maybe we'll do a print over to 700 to sell in the aftermarket. We're not going to be stuck with product in a warehouse for years with this method. Guess what? If you didn't have Kickstarter, they would not be giving you the products that you enjoy so much. So sure, it isn't the ideal method, perhaps, but it is the best way to get an idea of what it is that your market is going for. You can't get a better estimate than pre-orders. Really, like, oh, well, we know we have
Yeah.
this money in.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be stuck with an overstock of books anymore, and this is a way to prevent it. I want to answer some of the questions here. John said, "Yeah, Troller Games do have their own printing presses, which is a huge advantage for them. They have for years. That's good for them." He also says, "Lamentations can print in Finland. Why can't other companies print in the United States?" By the way, I don't know if you've seen some of James's posts. His printing went way up too. He's
Yeah.
getting hammered. He is getting absolutely hammered with his printing. Um, Somebody else said something here.
Well, Shantar has a good. He
Yeah,
goes,
Shadows are a good question. Makes you 2024 new core D&D books. They're done aren't done writing them. Then when will they come out? 2026. They think the shipping deal will be done a couple months. Um, yeah, I think they think that it's not as much of a problem for a bigger company. The Smaller companies are going to have more problems than bigger companies. I think Hasbro thinks they can solve the issues. I tell you what, Hasbro, if they can't get it shipped from China, they'll find a way to do it in the United States at some point. They're not going to shut their company down because of shipping issues. They will just find a way to get it done because they have the money to pay to get it done.
Right.
But Joe Schmo over here does not have that money to get it done. I mean, he either prints it in China, which is dirt cheap, or he probably just sits there and says, you know what, I'm just going to let this project sit for a couple years or a year because I really can't afford to locally ship right now. I can't afford a local printer, or and a lot of it depends on the size of the project. If you have a couple hundred books, it's not a big deal. It's when you have a couple thousand books that it gets to be,
Or tens of thousands with
yes, 10,000.
with Wizards of the Coast stuff. Yeah, I mean, listen, the reason why Amazon can sell Wizards of the Coast books at such a huge discount is because that means Wizards of the Coast is getting a huge discount printing in the bulk numbers they are in China.
Mhm.
So, can Wizards uh, eat some of that by publishing in the United States? I'll make you a suggestion that we haven't even touched upon. Um, Somebody with money to invest can invest in Mexico because then you wouldn't have to. You just have to drive it across the border or put it in trains, and you'd still have a maybe not the low cost that you have over in China, but you'd have a lower cost to print than you would in the U.S. So just an idea. Not that I could make it happen, but that would be in the future a possible solution or option. But you can't do that for everything, right?
Yeah. No.
And that's certain things are always going to seem to get sourced from China or from India. A lot of our medication comes from India.
Hmm.
If stuff from India suddenly gets shut down, uh, I'm on like 10 different medications, so it's like, oh crap. Well, now we can't get X. Is there a substitute that we can now
Right.
throw into the equation? These are things that we haven't gotten to yet, but I can certainly see that pop up because we've outsourced as a country, United States, but other Western countries have outsourced production to India, to China, to other countries of that source, and this is showing the weakness of that outsourcing
Yeah.
is the supply chain. And so I don't
Well,
know.
and a lot of the thing that makes it interesting is just how fragile this was, and it was always waiting for the tipping point, I guess. And COVID was the tipping point. And after this COVID, we've suddenly realized. I think one of the articles I read was talking about how backwards the West Coast ports were. They had not done upgrades in years and years. That's why the East Coast is not having as much problem as the West Coast, because apparently the East Coast ports were very well upgraded. They had the top of the line computer systems. They were just, they were really, they kept themselves. It's kind of like your car. I mean,
Right.
you can either put oil in your car every 4 months, or you can put it in there every 2 or 3 years. Well, your car is going to run better if you put it in there every 4 months. I guarantee it. Well, the same thing. Los Angeles did very little to upgrade any of their stuff there, and now they're just being absolutely swamped. They can't keep up with it. Their whole system. They don't even have the system to put up with this much stuff. And so it's just showing us how fragile. It's kind of like last year when we had the freezes in Texas and all the grid shut down.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah.
we had not had a freeze like that in 50 years. So we never had a shutdown. The grid never shut down in the winter. Well, we had a once in 50-year freeze last year. The grid shut down. People died. It was awful. So it just showed how unprepared we were for something like that happening. Well, this is the same thing. It just shows how absolutely unprepared we were. Of course, one in a million stories for anything like COVID to hit, because
Right.
the whole effect of COVID did this and this shut down for this much time, and now people can't go back to work, and now they're being paid not to work, and well, and then I'm not even going to get into the politics of firing people who don't have a vaccination,
Yeah.
because then that knocks your workforce down another 30%. If you're saying, hey, you got to have a shot, well, there's always this hardcore, what is it, about 30-35% that are saying we're not
Something like
going to
that.
get a shot no matter what. Well, guess what? Now you have less of a pool of people to draw from. I mean, it is an absolute freaking mess. And I'm glad I'm not the one that has to figure it out because I don't have a solution.
Oh God, not that I have the solution either. By the way, John Miller says, someone here previously said Troll Lord Games has their own printing press. Yes.
Yes, they do.
Was it? Well, Chenault and Gray is like
Hmm.
the affiliated printing company that is owned by the Chenaults, I believe.
Yeah, so they're a little ahead of the game when it comes. They print their own stuff and they're also printing Memorial Tomb and stuff like that. So they can print stuff there. it- Trollord probably can make some money from renting out their presses to people or to smaller game companies that need to print something. So yeah, that's very far ahead thinking of Trollord Games. They've had their own printing presses for quite a few years now, though.
So now Bill is saying that production time, even in the U.S., to get books printed was 3 to 4 weeks. It's now 6 to 8. So
Hmm.
remember, the impact isn't just where you think the impact is. There's a trickle down, a whole trickle down economics deal. Well, you know what? There's a trickle down when it comes to distribution, and um, it affects everything once you start
Yeah.
bottling stuff up. You know, it has a carry on throughout different industries. I mean, listen, have I stocked up on toilet paper? Not like some of the insane people did at the beginning of COVID, but do I have a stockpile of toilet paper that'll get me through? I don't know, a couple of weeks, a month. Yeah, you know, you have to. I don't want to break out my old comic books that are sitting and rotting away in the basement and use those paper. Now, if I was Mike and I had Judge's Guild products in my warehouse,
Oh, I have toilet
like,
paper for the rest of the time.
yeah,
I got a stack of lay sectors and tankards this high, so yeah, I'm not worried about toilet paper. I'll make do eventually, and I'll have reading material at the same time. No, but honestly, my wife and I talked about this last year, and we've been stocked up on toilet paper, towels, and canned goods for the past year. I had gotten a fight with a guy on Facebook, a rando on Facebook, because I said that we've been stocking up. He said, "Well, it's guys like you that make it so hard for the rest of us to get stuff." I'm like, "Whoa, hold on. I think it's called being smart. It's not
right.
called. I'm not trying to prevent you from getting anything. You can do all you want to. It's just that yes, we ran out of stuff last year. We ran out of
Yeah.
toilet paper, we ran out of paper towels, we ran out of just the weirdest stuff. The weirdest stuff. I remember going to the store one time. Have you ever seen a grocery store with no pasta? That is the. I mean, I can't even believe that I saw that.
Yeah.
Because pasta is something there's always tons of. Doesn't
Right.
matter.
And
And
it's always the cheap, it's like,
oh
oh, it's
yeah,
pasta. The Barilla stuff is on sale
you
again.
can always, there's always something to eat. You get pasta. If nothing else, you make some spaghetti sauce. You got something to eat. No, there was no pasta. And so, yeah, I don't. That's not happening again. So we've been stocking up on that stuff, just in the off chance that there's supply chain
And
disruptions,
here's
and apparently there are going to be. So
right.
I'm,
And they're talking about it on the news, right? You gotta turn on the TV. I saw it tonight when I came home from dinner, and it's like, oh, look at that. They're talking on like channel 4, NBC. Is talking about the great supply chain
oh
disruption.
boy,
Here's the thing, folks. If you are buying toilet paper so you can fill up a storage room and sell it in the aftermarket when people need paper for the shitter, yes, you're causing problems.
you're a quote unquote piece of shit. Yes,
Right.
because you need to be a fellow human being. Come on, I mean, don't deprive a guy over here of his toilet paper. But if you're just being farsighted enough to say, look, I'm always going to need toilet paper because you are, unless your butt falls off or something, you're always going to need toilet paper and you're always going to need paper towels and anything food you can always eat. So as long as is it for your own consumption or your family's consumption, I don't see any problem with it. I mean, I call that, far ahead thinking. And I think that's definitely something that people all 16 people watching us now should really be thinking about. I mean, look, I mean, is there going to be shortage of stuff? Probably yes. I mean, are you going to starve to death? Probably not, unless
No.
you're, really just really screwing around there. But it's something to think about how delicate a balance this system has. That now, I'm not saying that COVID was a little thing because it wasn't. But it's not an unexpected thing that you could have never in a million years guessed that would happen. It's something that was on people's radar, right? I mean, because we've had really bad flu attacks in the past that have, messed people up. It wasn't like it was totally off people's radar.
Right.
Um, but it's definitely something that's going to be affecting our regular lives and our hobby for probably the next year or more.
Yeah, I think that even once COVID becomes, oh, it's no longer a pandemic, it's now endemic. It's gonna be like the flu. You got to get a shot every year to get a little protection against the latest strain of COVID. We're still gonna. It isn't gonna clear up because you pull the plug and all the
Mm,
water rushes out. It
sure.
doesn't. It's not that simple.
No.
This is going to take a while. And what's going to be interesting in my eyes is how does the hobby long term respond to this? Does the hobby continue supporting local printers, whether that means printers in Finland or in the U.S., again, possibly Mexico, or does everybody go back to, oh, well, now it's cheap again to ship via container ships and they're moving quickly. Let's go out to China because
Yeah, I'll tell
one
you
thing,
one cool thing about our hobby, Eric, is that once you have the rule books, you don't need anything new.
right,
I mean, and that's I mean, last year I know while COVID was going on, my group still met. We met every once a month, and we were playing using our second edition rule books, and we were using Greg Gillespie's Highfell, which came out the year before that, and we were doing okay. I mean, we didn't need anything new. We were fine. And you know what? Honestly, as much stuff is in this warehouse. I mean, joking about the judge guild stuff, but just the stuff that you and I have on probably PDF, and we'd never have to buy another D&D thing again our rest of our
oh
lives.
no, I'd be fine. Somebody else mentioned it's going to be a big boon uh, for things in PDF, things in digital format. You don't have to worry about shipping. You don't have to worry about delivery. You don't have to worry
Yeah,
about putting things
now
on
that's
container
actually
ships.
that's so you brought up a good point, Eric. So let's talk about that for a second. So one of the big things that Frog God has done last year that has helped us out immensely and has been welcomed with open arms is our print on demand. So for those of you who don't know, we stopped shipping internationally this year because of all kinds of issues, shipping issues, prices, the fact that it was getting lost, the fact that it was getting damaged. I mean, you could have a $500 shipment. You ship it to Canada, it gets lost. Guess what? You're shipping another $500 worth of goods. That's not cost effective. So we started doing print on demand in other countries. It has worked out great because it's printed in the country that people order from, so there's no shipping delays. The price is low because it's just it's being printed out with the local printers locally,
Right.
and the quality for the most part has been excellent. We have had very little problems. I mean, because most of us here probably printed something out from Lulu. 90% of the time, it looks great. Every once in a while, I have had something back because it just wasn't. It was off a little bit, but that has been a huge boon for us is being able to do print on demand and like you said digital shipping or digital product too. um, Look, you can't unless the grid goes down. In that case we have a lot of problems. Nothing really can stop digital printing.
No, that's true, and that's a huge thing. I mean, I'm expecting the print on demand industry to start doing better, become more profitable before this. But then at the same time, I expect prices to go up. I mean, and
Yeah.
here's the thing too: when it comes to the price of shipping a container from China, which has quadrupled or quintupled, guess what? It's going to go down from 20,000 a container to 5,000, which is still going to be 3,000 more than the 2,000 they were paying 2 years ago, and people will be happy that they're only paying 5,000. It's a bargain. You're still paying 150%
Yeah.
more than you were paying in 2019, but they're not going to see it that way. People, you crank the price back a little bit, and you keep most, good portion of the price increase, and people become thankful. It's
Oh no,
strange
no,
how
yeah,
that works.
definitely, yeah. That and I know Watsy charges blah blah blah. Yeah, Watsy is going to bring back Kinkos for the customers to print their own dentistry. You can do that now. If you know what you're doing, you can print stuff out in Lulu all day long. I know I have friends that pretty much print their own books out all the time. because they'll print out something privately for you. You just put it up on the site with a code name or a secret name where nobody can see it, and or you tell your friends about it, and you can print out from Lulu all day long. Lulu doesn't always look at copyrighted material and go, "Oh, wait, this is copyrighted. We're not printing it out for you." You can slip things through. They will print out stuff, and so yeah, you could do that now if you know what you're doing. You could definitely have stuff printed up. Drive through prints out stuff. They print out classic D&D modules, and also drive through will print out your product too. I mean, there's ways around the issues that are happening right now. It is going to be tough for a lot of the. Here's what's going to suffer: the really nice quality hardback, like I don't have anything right here. The nice quality hardback Rapid Athic type of books. That is something that's just going to be a pisser. And the reason is you cannot print those locally.
Right.
And they pretty much can only be printed cheap. I mean, the Rapid Athic was a $100 book. If it hadn't been printed in China, it would have been a $200 book. Let's put it that way. And nobody's paying $200 for a hardback gaming book. So that's the kind of project that's going to suffer in the future is the high quality, snazzy, slick, hardcover, really, really nice book. The fanzine stuff that Eric and I love and that's
going to be fine.
The Torchlight stuff, all that stuff, that no problem. You'll be able to get that stuff out, older. If you want to print out a copy of L1 Secret of Bone Hill on drive-through, no problem. We can do that. It's just the really high quality products that companies like Green Ronin, Frog Eye Games, the kind of the mid-tier companies. WotC too. WotC to a certain extent, except WotC has enough money where it's not going to matter as much.
Right.
That's where you're going to have your issues. None of the smaller publishers are going to have that much of a problem.
David Betzak, better have stocked up on ammo. If the grid goes down, guess what? You haven't been able to buy ammo for the last 2 years.
Unless you're buying 38 or 22, yeah, you can't buy ammo. You haven't been able to buy ammo in a long time. So yeah, that's why I've been buying smaller caliber arms, to be honest with you, because you can actually buy ammo. You can actually get 38 and 10 millimeter and 22. Yeah. Not the best ammo, but at least my guns have ammo in them instead of not having any ammo at all. They at least have ammo. So,
did you ever figure out weapon speed for first edition AD&D? No, I did not.
Why would they ask you that?
Well, that's a good. You know what? I'm going to put weapon speed for first edition AD&D up there with bothering to learn the rules for 5e.
Oh my God.
I will never use it, and I'm not going to waste my effort in learning how to do it. Oh my God! I mean,
funny.
It only comes into effect if you got a tied initiative, and then if you have a two-handed sword versus a dagger. The dagger will attack 3 times. What? Somebody explained that to me one time, and I was like, I didn't read that in the rules.
This is Talking Crit. This is not Friday night when Joe the lawyer and Eric argue about the most mundane little tiny rule that they used to.
But that's a good one, though. That and the overbearing. He was
taking us for another show.
The overbearing rules. Come on.
Oh, terrible. How come that system? Digression here. How come they never got non-weapon combat even partly right ever? What was wrong? What was the deal with that? They could never get it right.
Here's my belief, and I have no inside knowledge, but the DMG seemed to me to be Gary's hodgepodge of these are interesting rules and options that nobody will ever fucking use, but let me throw them out there. And much like psionics and psionic combat, right? I don't think it was really play tested, but when you think of a coherent rule system, well, combat uses a D20, and you get better with it as you go up in level. You would do the same for unarmed combat, you would think. But no, let's make it a percentage system that's based upon the armor you're wearing. What?
That was the one thing that I just handled as a DM.
Punches
it's just like, you know what? Let's just see how it goes. And I would have them roll. Okay, so where are you? We're in the bar. We got 16 thugs, but we don't want to kill any of them because they're all cousins of the mayor. We're gonna have a fist fight. Okay, everybody roll a dice. Okay, you got a 20. The first guy runs up to you, you punch him in the head. He's out cold. Oh, you rolled a 2. You run to the first guy, but you slip on a beer and you hit your head on the tail. I mean, that's how I'd run non-weapon combat because none of the methods they ever had ever made any sense. And
Right.
so I just ad-libbed it, and we had a ball with that. And so it actually was fun because it was just all ad-libbed. Whoever wants to, you just rolled. If you rolled high, you rolled good. Sometimes I'd give you a strength bonus. Okay, my strength's 18. Well, okay, you can pick up the table and throw it at the guys over there. But yeah, because and I guarantee you that was as good as anything or TSR ever wrote, because they didn't know what they were doing when it came to non-weapon combat.
Yeah,
They had
no.
no clue.
The Dungeon Master's Guide, I didn't realize it at the time. When I got it, I was like, oh my God, this is just so freaking cool. And then I got older and I realized, wow, there's no sense of coherency to it. And it's not even like things are put in it in an order where you would go, oh, that makes sense. No, it's just like random, throw it in, see what
Well,
sticks.
now Shed started saying non-weapon proficiencies. I liked them. We used them properly in my group, which is that it allowed you to complete a task that was not a normal task, as you say. I know Mike Stewart of Mike and Liz fame makes fun of not weapon proficiencies because of things like, okay, so fire building, you don't have that, you don't know how to make a fire. No, what it means is you can make a fire under extreme circumstances during, let's say, during the thunderstorm, and all you have is a piece of flint and a dog fingernail or something. I mean, that's
Right.
how that's where it came in handy. And so, yeah, non weapon proficiencies used correctly were fun because they just told you. I mean, look, either you know how to swim or you don't. If you don't have a non-weapon proficiency for swimming, you don't know how to swim. Not everybody knows how to swim. To me, it was better than saying, okay, you all have to cross the stream. Who doesn't know how to swim here? Oh, we all know how to swim. We all know how to swim. We definitely learned that when we were kids. Even though
Yep.
we grew up in the desert, we know how to swim. Instead, you'd have to say, okay, who has the swimming non-weapon proficiency? Well, I do. Do you have it? No. You can't swim, dude. You're going to have to
Right.
drag you across or dog paddle, or they're going to have to tie a rope to you.
Right.
And
You need to find a log to float
yeah.
with. Come on.
And the same, like I said, cooking. Oh, I don't know how to cook food. No, you can cook. Okay, if you don't know the cooking proficiency, you can cook about like a bachelor that his only food he can make is chili and spaghetti.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
it.
much.
Other than
I
that, you
can
can't.
boil water.
You can make a boiled egg, but no. So yes, not with proficiencies. I never mind them because we use them correctly in that it allowed for extreme things only. So I think that takes a lot of look. I like this. I like 2E a lot. So we're playing 2E right now. As a matter of fact, we have been for the last couple of years. But that's always a hit against 2E that I think is unwarranted. Is the non-web. I think they're fun. They're kind of fun to use. Yes, like everything else in 2E, it got bloated once you came out the splat books and you had
Ooh.
non-web proficiencies for pit fighting and fingernail
Oh, come
chewing and I
on.
mean just whatever.
Elven Blade Singers.
Yeah.
Come on, man. What's wrong with an Elven Blade Singer destroying your campaign? Come
Yeah,
on.
that's when it got really over the top. So,
Well, Matt says there were also weapon bonuses against armor types. That one broke my head, and I'll
oh,
tell you why. Because I was like, my PCs were very rarely at fighting men in armor, right? So now it's like, oh, I got to figure out what type of armor the orcs are wearing. What about when they're fighting an ogre? This stuff didn't. This stuff broke
yeah.
down real quickly, so we quickly said we're not playing with that rule.
So Shadazar is bringing up some funny things about questing beasts, who I'm not a big fan of. But we found a guy that's kind of like questing beast this week. Speaking of which, so we're gonna move on in our comments here since we're scatter shooting and hex crawling. We found a questing beast guy that's even more questing beast than questing beast.
But Questing Beast has some legitimate stuff.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm not saying it's all good stuff, but I'm just saying he has some legitimate
right.
stuff. I'm getting the video page ready, but I'm not
Yeah,
going.
Eric found this guy this week.
I didn't find it, Glenn.
Oh, this guy. Yeah. Now I'm going
Glenn.
to lead this off with saying, in my opinion, personally, and I'm not being an asshole or just making stuff. I honestly think he might be mentally ill. I'm not.
No,
I'm not saying that
I agree.
jokingly or weird because his theory was a doozer. What was his theory, Eric?
His theory was because of the data leak that Critical Role made $9 million on Twitch. D&D was therefore socially relevant, and you should not be playing OSR games, at least not more than 49% of your gaming time, because by playing the OSR, you were hurting the one true edition of the current edition of D&D. And it goes off into the weeds from there.
Oh, it goes so far in the weeds. It's like the island on Lord of the Flies because he goes way off to. I mean, it makes no sense, and I don't even know why we're talking about him because we might give this guy a couple hits he doesn't deserve.
Oh,
But
he's already
it
gotten.
was funny. It was
He got
funny as hell.
970 hits. But now, when they talk about being ratioed, and listen, when the young ladies over at the Gen Con YouTube channel were talking about TSR3 and the Gygax brothers, and Gary Gygax, and were literally making shit up because they didn't have answers. So we'll just make something up that we believe is true. They didn't get ratioed like this.
Oh, this guy got ratioed to what he deserves because it's like I said, I don't know much about Garibay except that I think he might need to see a therapist. Because
Yeah.
there's something a little off about him. Because look, the world's big enough that you can play 5e and OSR. There's not this tiny finite pie of gamers that there's only this many gamers, so you can't play OSR when you should be playing 5e instead. No, there's room for everybody at this party. Not just the 5e or the everybody. So this was the nuttiest video ever. And what made it worse is I don't think he was playing it for laughs. I think he was sincere, which leads me to the thought that, like I said, he might be mentally ill because if he's sincere about that, I don't think he understands how the world works.
Right. Well, he somehow listen. To break certain things down.
Oh, God.
Listen, I am very happy to see that Critical Role made $9 million with a web series of fake D&D play. That's awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's good for the hobby. You know what?
Right.
Critical Role is not my cup of tea. I don't like to watch people play D&D. I especially don't like them to watch them play rehearsed D&D that isn't really real, by a bunch of actors who, this, that. But you know what, though? It brings people in the hobby. It doesn't hurt anybody. Who cares? I know some people think it hurts the hobby. I don't agree with that. I think that it doesn't hurt the hobby. Yes, you have the Matt Mercer effect, and I know some people deny it exists. It does exist because I have had people tell other people you don't DM like Matt Mercer. So it does exist, but it's
DM.
mostly somebody who doesn't really know what they're talking about that says dumb things like that.
Right.
So no, it's good for the hobby, but it's not something that I'm Critical Role. If Critical Role disappeared tomorrow, it's not going to affect anybody here or probably watching us right now. It's not going to make one bit of difference. So, good for them. They make $9 million. You know what? They probably deserves it. The guy works his ass off, for what he does.
But the thing is, $9 million doesn't go into one man's hands. It's besides the tax man taking probably a 40% cut of that, you're paying your actors. They aren't players. They are actors.
No, they're actors, yeah.
You're playing your script writer because remember, this is from a script. Don't believe it's done otherwise.
Oh, yeah.
Your producers, your sound crew, your video crew. So you're paying people to advertise. This thing doesn't happen in a vacuum. So nobody's walking away with a huge chunk of that money, but still it's impressive. And the point being made by our friend here, Scott, was that, well, if they were playing old school essentials, they wouldn't have made $9 million. You know what? You're probably right, because D&D has a certain effect. It's like Kleenex, right? Kleenex, Xerox. It is like almost like a generic name for the whole hobby. You play D&D. No, I play Traveler. I'm not going to argue. Right. I play D&D. I play Swords and Wizardry. Oh, what the hell's that? That's D&D. You know, you're not going to argue that point. So people see it as a generic term. But
Mhm.
you know, again, this is it's not a finite amount of monies. Oh, you spent product money on a product from Troll Lord Games. It should have gone to Wizards of the Coast, so you could enforce that. Why? Wizards of the Coast doesn't give a shit if I spend money on them or
No,
not. I am not going to
they
make
don't
a
care
hill of
about
beans
us.
difference in their profit margin. But you know
Nope.
what? If I put
Nope.
money in the pocket of Frog Guy Games or Goodman or Troll Lord or Old School Essentials,
Hmm.
it'll make a difference, or
Sure.
at least a lot more difference than
Oh yeah.
this. So
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was a weird. This is a weird take. It was a weird take because it didn't make any sense. Like I said, it treats D&D like it's a very finite commodity that there's only X amount of it that ever existed, and if you don't play the, it's just not true. Like you said, Eric, it's not just D&D is a generic name now for role playing. Period.
right,
So does that mean you should stop playing Call of Cthulhu too? Because it's not 5e, but Call of Cthulhu has a extremely loyal, very, very important audience out there. There's probably more kick-ass Call of Cthulhu plays on YouTube than there is D&D. I mean, they've got some really, really good playthroughs on uh, Call of Cthulhu. So yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of games like that. It does look. There's no finite amount of D&D to go around. Use all the D&D you want. Play 5e one day, play 1e the next day, play OSC the next day. It's nobody's going to be hurt.
right.
It's not going to harm anything. Just, do what you got to do. Have fun.
Wild Die Woodward, yes, his whole thing about the circle of Hollywood, but that's somebody who doesn't understand industries outside. He has a perception
Yeah.
of what Hollywood is or should be, what gaming is and should be. And if you're not following it, you're in trouble.
Oh, Glenn says that we're not leaving anything for him to talk about Friday night. I guess he had
Oh,
some
Glenn, we got plenty of stuff to talk
Oh
about.
yeah, you can
Right now.
cover the same territory.
This guy, your takes gonna be different than ours here. Trust me.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Shadar,
Definitely.
here's the issue with that. Um, I can't copy and paste it from either side right now. Maybe if I go into the
Somebody
YouTube.
here
Hmm.
asked about Giant Lands. First of
Oh
all,
yeah,
is this a troll or is this real? If it's real, we'll give you the real lowdown. If
yeah.
it's a
Give
troll, I'm not
him the
interested.
real lowdown about the plastic console.
Giant Lands is a gaming system created by James Ward and Stephen Deinhardt. It's a role playing system. It's not D&D. It's not old school. There may be some LARPing involved. Um, it's just
Wear your plastic
yeah.
poncho.
It's not going to
Yeah.
sell. They're acting like at $80 a pop, and they printed 2,000 copies. It might sell out. Guys, it ain't selling out anytime soon. You might want to wait till it comes out. Maybe read a little bit about it, but I guarantee you they're not going to sell. They said they had over half the copies left. It's not selling out
No.
anytime soon. Not with 1,000 copies at $80.
Fear not. Now that's the whole. Oh, it's gonna be. It's gonna run out if you don't buy it soon. It's gonna run out. Listen, everybody in your family, everybody in your gaming group, everybody at your local pub could all run out and buy copies, and it
Silly.
wouldn't put a dent into the number of copies
No,
that are left.
it's so. If you want to get it because you're curious about it. It's not going to save the world. Like I said, it's not an old school game. It is a new school RPG that involves some acting out, acting parts. It seems to be. Do we figure out if is it percentile based? I don't know if we've heard very much
I don't
about it.
know, but remember, James Ward said it's the first what's it post-apocalypse fantasy RPG ever.
Oh, well, hold on. Frank said I read they raised the price to $150 for the box set. Good luck with all that, brother. Yeah, I read a post not too long ago that said they had almost half their sets still available, and they had a print run of 2,000. Let's say they have 900 left. You know how long it takes to sell 900 of anything, much less a game that nobody's ever heard of and nobody's ever played, that it still has not even out yet. These are all pre-orders, by the way. There is no
Yes.
actual product out there yet. I would venture to say this is not going to sell out. I might wait until it went on sale. I've been wrong before about things. I don't think I'm wrong about this. I think there's going to be plenty of giant lands out there for everybody that wants their giant lands, because that's
And now remember though, if you buy this edition of Giant Land, you can register to be a playtester, because this edition of Giant Lands is not the final edition of Giant Lands. You're beta testing or play testing for the next edition of Giant Lands.
Mhm.
So you're paying a premium, this is how I see it, to beta test an incomplete game that's the first fantasy post-apocalypse RPG
Except
that,
it's not really. But
except for Gamma World and Rift and Mutant Future and
and Metamorphosis. Yeah, there's like
uh,
eight other ones. Yeah.
my head hurts. I gotta stretch my head a bit more to get my brain working on that one. Yeah, it is a lot of things that it isn't, but
Here's
again,
right here on the Wonderfield page. While our Giant Lands is deeply influenced by titles like D&D 1E, AD&D, Gamma World, 1 through 3rd edition, and Empire of the Petal Throne, it's not OSR. It's a new kind of RPG for young and old, rooted in the tradition, using pencil, paper, tokens, dice, masks, and some good old-fashioned imagination. Only reading, writing, and arithmetic are required, and an ideal game has 3 to 10 players. So, it's
I
a new kind.
always wore
You
masks
always
when
wear
I
your
did old
mask
school
when you play.
games.
Yeah, I used to always wear my mask too.
When I used to. No, never mind. Ah,
I'm looking for some place that says it's $150. Now I'm looking at their. Let me look at their sales page. Well, yeah, it looks like their pre-order is now up to $130 for the Giant Lands box set. So
no. Well,
yes,
that's
that's
a premium because they're shipping from China,
what
right?
else is that expensive that's out there? Even that's it.
Uh,
That is
hmm.
you can buy a lot of gaming for $130.
But
A
you wouldn't
lot.
get a mask. You wouldn't get a
Yeah,
mask.
that's true. You could make them. You could get a cheaper mask than that. I mean, you get a mask and save some money and get your own mask.
Yeah,
Unless you have to have a
no.
special mask. That is. When did they go up their price? That it wasn't always $130, was it?
No, I thought it was like 90 or 100
I
before.
thought it was 80, but yeah, maybe you're right.
But you know what? Here's the thing. If you up the price, then you can claim it's on sale later. So, hey, I worked retail for 8.5 years before I became a cop. I worked in electronics for a number of those years, and I still remember it's like, all right, well, we got a TV set that's on. This is going back to the 80s and early 90s, folks. So we're talking things like RCA big ass TVs. Well, the 20 inch is on, it's regularly priced $329, normally on sale for $299. But we're gonna put it back to $329 for a week, so we can then put it on sale for $299 for the sale. Isn't that like the regular price we had it on sale for? No, it's the advertised price now. It's like, what?
That's very, very cynical of you. But I see where you're getting and where you're going, and I think you're on the right track. It makes perfect sense.
Shadzar, you are asking me to do stuff that I have no clue how to do. I will, however, go back into this stream after this, and I will figure out a way how to copy and paste it and add it as a comment that I can pin to the top of the comment section. And I will also find a way for me to watch it or read it, unless you have me on Facebook. You want to send me the link there.
Yeah.
Which it's Eric Tenkar, but I mean, I don't know if you have me on Facebook. Let's see what else. Yeah, Frank, I wouldn't pay 150 for it. I wouldn't pay 100 for it. I wouldn't pay 50 for it. The moment I saw people playtesting in plastic ponchos with the mask on, you told me this game is not for Tenkar, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Again,
well, not everything's for Tenkar. I mean, that's
right. Listen, just like one of my blog posts this week or one of my videos responding to Scott. Listen, not every game is for every person, but don't tell me what to play. Don't tell me you have to play 5e because it's socially relevant. I don't give a fuck. Honestly, would I play it? in the right group, sure. I would never run it because I'll never learn it well enough. Have I played Apocalypse World? I've played Apocalypse World. I'll never play that shit again. Because if you're gonna do it, do it. If you're not gonna do it, don't do it. But if you didn't do it, then you didn't do it, or some shit like that. The way the rules are written,
Mm.
I am not wasting my time on a game that I don't enjoy, and I'm not going to enjoy playing 5e. It comes down to the whole idea: is a bad RPG session better than no RPG session at all? And I will tell you, hands down, I'd rather not play than play with the wrong group or play the wrong game because I have better things with my time to do than play a bad RPG session.
Oh, so I found the post here. So this is on the Giant Lands page. Over half of this first printing of our Giant Lands first edition run has been sold, and it won't be offered again. For now, it's only $79.99 plus shipping and handling. As we move into production, the price for the remaining units will be $149.99. So I don't know where they're getting the $129.99
Because it's
from.
already on sale. Don't
It's
you understand,
it's
Mike?
made in the USA, designed in Wisconsin, printed on 30% post-consumer recycled paper, very important to me, and includes classic TSR talent. Oh, so it would be 149, but we're going to give you a deal. Wink, wink. It's only 129.
See? We
Ah, okay.
raised the price to 150, so we can knock it down to 129. So it's on sale for 150, but still $50 more than the prior sale price.
Hmm.
This is some like new age marketing bullshit.
Good luck.
Sorry.
Good luck to them, I guess.
A new kind of RPG, almost never a good sign. Here's the key. Take out the word almost. Never, never a good sign. It's a new type of RPG.
This is a
Really?
new. It's new. It's a new type of hamburger. We figured a way to do it better than just one piece of meat and two buns. It's a new type. Yeah, that's not never good. So
Yeah,
just give me the old
we
hamburger.
make it with
I'll just take
cement.
hamburger. Thank you.
Yeah, no, no. You want our new cement burger?
Yeah.
It,
No, no.
yeah, come
I
on.
just want hamburger.
No, the grit's
I
good
like
in your
hamburger.
teeth, man. The grit's good in your teeth. Giant Lands is
Well,
using the Pathfinder 2E playtest box. Pay us to playtest the business model. Here's the thing, Glenn. With Pathfinder 1E, you could get that playtest book. It's like $10 at the time.
yeah. They had a
They,
good. It was a pretty good deal.
you were getting it
The
for
first
cost,
Pathfinder 2.0, that 2E is
right?
different creature.
But the 1E book was, yeah,
Hmm.
I had the beta for $10. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. But no, no,
It
this
does.
is
Dan Waite says, "Why do we in the OSR community complain about the new generation games we don't even play?" So this section. So I want to talk. I want to riff on this for a second, Dan, because I had somebody. So on the North Texas RPG Con pages, we had a little discussion that kind of went out of bounds a little bit, but it had to do with the fact that um, the thing we talked about last week about how Watsy decided the devils aren't evil and angels aren't necessarily all good. You might have a I don't know, lawful good, whatever the thing was, and
listen. He's
a lot of
just
people,
misunderstood. Orcus is
yeah, he's
really
just misunderstood.
he's
He had
he's
a
a
bad home
party
life,
he's a party guy. He's
bad
a
home.
member of
When he
Alpha
drinks,
Beta.
he gets a little, he drinks. He's a little, yeah.
Yeah,
No, no, no. It's so people can. So honestly, at this point, I think it's a marketing thing for Hasbro. They put out some weird something. Old schoolers complain about it. That everybody gets to come along and sneer at the old guys. That oh man, y'all just don't understand the new stuff. Okay, boomer, this things are changing. And look, my whole thing is you're allowed to complain about things you don't like. So I don't understand if I played a game, if I played 5e and I liked 5e, why would I care what some old fuck says about it? You shouldn't care what some old fuck says about it. So why not complain? Look, old people complain about everything. If you just think they're complaining
right.
about new generation games,
Get
boy,
off my lawn.
yeah, my back hurts. No, no. Old people complain about everything. They complain about the price of gasoline, the price of coffee, their back hurts, the TV
The
shows suck
hemorrhoids.
nowadays, movies aren't as good as they used to be. It just I can go on and on. They complain about everything. Comic books suck now. This and this sucks. So just to pick out one thing and say, well, why do people complain about that? Well, they complain about everything. And if they do, why does it bother anybody? you just move on. I don't understand why the need. I'm not saying just this about you, Dan. I'm just saying that in general, I don't understand why the new generation has to care what we think about anything. Why
Right.
would I don't care. I don't care what the new generation thinks about anything. I could go to a guy and he could say, man, second edition sucks. I don't care. I've been playing it since 1990. I like it. I don't give a shit. So I just don't. I guess I don't understand the whole premise to this thing when everybody's worried about what somebody else says about their game. Why were new schoolers worried that people didn't like Devils being good? They should just say, well, it's just a new thing. We're doing it this way now. Tough luck. Why the need for approval from anybody old? From Eric and I, they don't care. Watsy doesn't care what Eric and I like. They didn't give a shit what Eric and I like.
We weren't used as resources when they designed 5e. That was
They don't they have no clue what we
Pundit
like, and they don't.
and
Yeah,
Zach Smith. Come on, that's nobody. What we like or dislike, we're commenting on stuff, right? That's what we do. We comment, and you might hear our comments and go, "Well, it's irrelevant to me," and that's going to be fine. And as I said before,
there's a lot of things I don't like about 5e, but I think 5e is definitely good for the hobby because so many people play it. And look, I get a lot of people from 5e that go to old school games. There's more than you would think. I'll be absolutely honest with you. There's a lot of people that play 5e. So a lot of times you have a computer game and you can play it on like the easy level, the medium level, or the hard level, like Madden. So I'm a big Madden fan. I haven't played in a few years, but I used to play Madden all the time. So there was the easy level, the sort of easy, the medium, the hard, and the super hard. And after a while, you got tired of playing on the easy level and you went to the hard one. And then if you really were a masochist, you went to super hard. I can't fucking win on super hard. It's too fast for me. I can't even push the buttons fast enough. So I have had a lot of people that have come to old school gaming from 5e because they want to play on the hard level now. And let's face it, playing 5e is not playing on the hard level. It's not the easy level, but it's the next easy. You can die, but
if you can die if you fail your save and throw like 7 times in a row. Come on.
Or if you just absolutely use up all your action and you have nothing left and then you get hit by a dragon. Yeah, you're going to die.
Right. It's not impossible.
Right.
You can
but
get
it's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Extremely difficult.
No, Jen, you did not miss the drawing because there is no drawing.
There's no drawing.
Next drawing is at 2,000 and we are 1.04 at the 1,000 mark. So we got a way to go. So you might want to
I have run into more than one person. A lot of them are younger people too, which is cool. That played 5e, liked it okay, but they wanted to play something a little harder and a little more deadly and a little scarier. And so they moved to an older edition, whether it be 3.5, whether it be 2e, whether it be 1e, sometimes OD&D, or a lot of times it's just they moved to a retro clone like OSE or Swords of Wizardry or Labyrinth Lord because they're tired of playing on the easy level. And I'm sorry to say 5e is the easy level. I mean, as Eric calls it, it's Care Bear D&D. It is. Now, that's not saying it's not a perfectly valid version of D&D because people love it and it brings people to the hobby, but it is not. As Eric said, it's an extremely hard game to fail at.
Right.
You have to really, really screw the
pooch. You need to want to fail. I want to kill my character. You gonna slice your own throat? Yes. All right. Well, make some rolls.
Make a saving throw. Oh no! Make another one. Okay, make this one with a not a bonus anymore.
Can I just take a 1? No, you just can't take a 1. What do you think this is? 3rd edition? You can't automatically fail a roll.
I remember a couple years ago when a guy died on Critical Role, and it was the most shocking story for a lot of a week because it's almost fucking impossible to die in 5e. And this guy, he literally did everything wrong to get his character killed. And it was a shocking point of discussion for a week on everybody that watched Critical Role because somebody had actually finally died on Critical Role. That's how hard it was. After 7 years of Critical Role or 6 years, however long, a guy finally died.
Did they cry? I mean, because listen, if you play OSR games, is your character important? Yes. But you know what's more important than your character? The journey that got your character where they got. And you know what? If I got to start anew, guess what? I'm gonna have a brand new journey. It's gonna be fun, and I will appreciate everything that my prior character did, and I'll be proud of their death. Look, you wouldn't believe how this guy died. It was amazing. All right, and now you roll anew. But you can do that with an OSR account because it doesn't take you a day to create your character. That's part of the issue too with a lot of these new games.
David says a lot of characters died in season one. They didn't do that after season one, though. This is a guy that died recently. That they had said, the article I read, that nobody had died in like 5 years. But yes, they did everything wrong to kill the PC in season two. That because you know what I'm talking about there. Yeah, but so once they figured the game out, they're like, oh, my character doesn't have to die if I do this. Now, if I do everything wrong, I can actually kill my character, which is what happened in that case. But look, I mean, if you want to play, look, there's a lot of ways to play D&D. There's story driven, there's character driven, and a lot of people talk about old school D&D. The game tells the story, not the character, right? That's what everybody says about D&D is that's why you let the dice decide, because rather than that, so you come to a bridge, and on the bridge there's a Balrog, and your characters are going to fight the Balrog. So on one version of D&D, the DM probably he's going to decide, you know what, I want the characters. My story requires the characters make it past the Balrog. So I can still make this really entertaining. It's going to be a fun battle, but in the end, they're going to make it past the Balrog. I'm going to figure out how to get them past there. Even if everybody lays there dying, something's going to happen to get them past the Balrog, right? Because that's what I want my story to be. But then there's another kind of DM that says, I'm going to let the dice tell the story. I don't know if they make it past the Balrog. If they do, then that's the story. But if they don't, that's the story too.
Right.
And so I'm just going to go with that story instead of trying to place my vision of what I think the story is. I'm going to let the players and the dice decide what the story is, and then I'm going to roll with it. And that's what the main difference is. I'm not necessarily saying one's better than the other. I know there's some DMs that like one way. There's some players that like that way. I know some players that are in love with their characters. They don't want their character to die. I'll tell you a true story. So this guy we used to play with years and years ago, he had not played D&D normally. He started playing with us. He really enjoyed it. Played with us a couple years. He had a druid. The druid got up to about 9th level because we advanced pretty slowly in those days. We didn't play every week. And this guy loved his character. He loved he had a cool magic scimitar. He had an ebony fly that he'd fly around. He loved playing that character. And I didn't realize at the time, but he wasn't as in love with D&D as he was with this character. Because there was an incident when he got trapped in a room with him and 12 gargoyles, and he and his ebony fly and his scimitar, where he got killed and he got torn to pieces by the gargoyles, because that was just the way the story went. I mean, he was alone there. The gargoyles attacked him. They killed him. And then I was just thinking, okay, what are they going to do with the guy? Well, they're going to tear him to pieces.
Right.
You know what? He never played D&D after that. Because if I had to do it over again, I would have made his character survive, just because I felt bad later that I ruined his enjoyment of what he was doing, which is having fun, because he loved his character. He didn't love the game of D&D, he loved his character. Once that character died and we said, okay, you can start a new character up, he wasn't interested. He didn't care. He loved his druid. And I'm a different person now than I was 30 years ago. I would play that totally different than I am. I would probably have him killed and just let the gargoyles leave the body behind, and somebody finds him, raise him for the dead, go from there. Because I didn't realize at the time that that's what was important to him, not the game. Because to me, it was always the game that was important, not the characters, right? I mean, the characters are awesome, but not as important as the game. And so some people do play like that, where their character is the reason they're interested in the game. And I think that's a perfectly valid way of playing. I'll be honest with you. If that's the way you want to play, fine. I mean, look, that's what the Dragonlance series is, right? When Hickman and Weiss were playing that series way back in the day with their own characters, whatever, I mean, what's his name? Spoiler for a 40-year-old series, Sturm dies in the second book. Well, when they were playing, Sturm died. His character actually died, which makes a cool part of the book, right? Because he's one of the main characters of the book and he dies. and that was actually something they played in their game. Was, oh, this character Sturm dies. Now looking back on it, he's probably one of the characters that could die, and you wouldn't notice it unless it was Gold Moon or Riverwind, which are completely useless. Oh, say 12 gargoyles. He wasn't supposed to go in that room, Dan. That was I think one of the reasons I punished him a little bit. He went ahead of the party doing things he wasn't supposed to be doing. So yeah, he's like 9th level. He could have escaped him too. He chose to fight them, which is why his character got killed.
Oopsie.
I don't know where I was going with it. But anyway, just the point is, I think all ways of playing are perfectly valid. If you want to play character-driven, fine. Story-driven, fine. Dice-driven, fine. But just don't be upset when people complain. People are allowed to complain about things they don't like. I don't know where we got this thing in our society that, well, you don't like it, you're wrong. No, you're not wrong. It's just that's something you don't like. I see that being directed so many times at grognards. It gets directed at us, Eric, so much. I think it's part of their marketing strategy. I really do.
Oh, it could be.
I think they like to sit there and go, look, the old guard's all upset again. We must be doing something right. And then you have all these people that post on Facebook about, these old guys are so dumb and stupid and they don't like change. I honestly think it's a marketing strategy now. I think they do that on purpose to get people all excited that, hey, there's a new rule in the game the old people hate, which means it's got to be great because the old people can't stand it. It's got to be awesome.
You don't want those rules in your game because the new rules are better.
We said that demons can be good, and they got all bent out of shape about it. That shows you how great our idea is. That all these old people got bent out of shape about it. It's got to be good.
Damn, get off my game. Get out of my role playing. Leave my OSR alone. Listen, play what you like. Like I said earlier, and if you're not enjoying it, again, we like to complain. Complaining is human nature. When you talk about, oh man, I had this great game session, nobody wants to hear you wax poetically about what a great fucking time you had. But if you tell a story about how fucked up your game session was, everyone's like, really? Whoa. What the hell? And then what happened? Who the hell would put 12 gargoyles tore you to pieces after you died? And then
DM's an asshole.
And then they pissed on your remains and then they ate it?
What like you said, John, like New York Times need Trump for their marketing. WotC needs grognards for their marketing. I didn't want to believe it, but after the last couple of revelations that were trickled out that were specifically geared towards pissing off old schoolers, I absolutely believe it's part of their market strategy now. Is to say, look at those old guys over there who just don't like the way the game's going now. Ha, ha, ha. They don't want orcs to be good. Orcs aren't inherently evil, and they got all upset about it. See what a great idea it is? Absolutely, I absolutely believe that. You can't convince me otherwise.
But if the old school gamers hate it, therefore...
And old school gamers are allowed to bitch about stuff. Yeah. Like I said, the same way new school people are allowed. You're allowed to disagree and not like things. And I don't know how we got in gaming to where if you disagree with something or don't like it, you're a bad person. I don't get it. I don't understand where that's come from. But that's something that just seemed to happen.
Listen, old school gamers bitch about 5e, and 5e gamers bitch about old school gamers and old school games. They're like, who would play a game that's 40 years old? Do you know how far games have matured in that time?
They're so much better now.
There's no intuition rolls. How am I going to detect lies?
You don't even need dice anymore, really.
Well, you do, because everything has to have a roll. But in any case, you know what? Everybody takes it from their perspective. And that's fine. But to bitch and complain that we're bitching and complaining is, in and of itself, like, continuing the bitching and complaining, right? Is that a proper way to put it, Mike? Am I overstepping my bounds?
No, like I said, it's just something that hit me last week when somebody posted on Facebook about man, the old guys are getting all bent out of shape because devils can be good now. And I'm like, well, aren't I allowed to? I'm allowed to get bent out of shape. Why is that a penalty or a bad thing? I can be upset about whatever I want to be upset about.
Yeah.
It doesn't change your experience of the game. Why are you worried about me?
And Chad John makes a valid point. It's really boring to watch other people play D&D.
I agree. I think it is too.
I think it's mind-numbingly boring. Now, that being said, I have trouble watching these fake real plays that are more about like improv
Yeah,
acting.
because they're really not playing D&D in those.
No, but
That's not really
Rach
playing
can
D&D.
enjoy them. She'll watch it and go, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's fine." What I can't enjoy it because it's kind of like I have to separate myself from the you're pretending that you're pretending, right? Like you're pretending that you're playing a game of pretend. What you're trying to tell me? You're not really playing an RPG. You're pretending to. It's like, oh
Well,
God.
there's that their Acquisitions Incorporated that they do their live play testings and they're hilarious. And so when I went to um, PAX South last year in January 2020, they had a lot. I got into their live thing, and the place was packed. It was a giant auditorium, packed people, and they had them on stage. Jeremy Crawford was running the game, and it was funny. It was fun. And of course, it was all fake. The dice rolling was garbage because when they failed a dice roll, he made it so it worked anyway. You know what I'm saying? So nothing was a permanent effect, but it was fun. It was fun.
Right.
It was funny. The actors were hilarious. The reactions were funny. You could tell there was a whole backstory there that I had no clue of because this is the first Acquisitions Incorporated I'd ever seen. But apparently they've been doing it for years and years, and I can see people liking that. It was fun. Now, I mean, it's just not my bag. But people were having a great time there. I'm not. Who am I to say that? Because I laughed a couple times. There was some really funny D&D isms in there. That they threw in there some really funny things, like when a guy failed a roll with a 1, and apparently he always fails stuff, and so it was just kind of an inside hilarious joke, and things like that. I mean, I could appreciate that, and so but that's just not for me. I mean, I couldn't watch 20 of those. Good Lord, no.
No,
One was plenty.
I mean, for me, it's like me watching a badly done cop drama. I can sometimes I can watch cop dramas and suspend my disbelief enough to enjoy it if it isn't too egregious. I can go sit back and go, yeah, no, the NYPD commissioner is not a uniformed member of the service. As much as I like Tom Selleck, and Blue Bloods, no.
Oh, Blue Bloods isn't accurate? Come on, man.
No, it isn't. But I can still enjoy the show because the egregiousness isn't huge. Right. But when it becomes huge, when it becomes to the point where I was like, what was that movie with Bruce Willis? Oh my God, so many movies with Bruce Willis. 22 Blocks. When he's like escorting a prisoner.
Oh my God! Yeah, everybody, all the police officers want to kill him. They're all.
I was like, this is such a load of shit. I can't believe I'm actually watching this.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I paid for it, so I guess I have to watch it. I need more popcorn, and I wish I brought whiskey for my soda.
A lot of whiskey, yeah.
A lot. There's not enough whiskey that you can smuggle in on that one.
My favorite are always movies about sports because I have a theory that I think most directors and writers don't ever watch sports and don't really know how sports works. They kind of know how it works, but not really. They're the kind of people that call football sports ball because they don't really know, whatever. Because every time I watch a movie about football, it always is filled with the most egregious errors that anybody that watches football will be like, oh my God, that is so stupid and terrible. That would never happen. It takes me immediately out of the movie because it makes no sense. And yeah, it's probably the same thing with you, the cop show, right? Yeah. You're the same thing. Like you could take a little bit, okay, but then when it gets so egregious, you're like, enough. That's just not anything at all like what I've ever experienced.
Yeah, I mean, the first season of CSI, I watched some random episode where they were taking evidence from a sexual assault and putting it in plastic evidence bags, and I was just like, my eyes got big. I'm like,
that. Yep. Not
I'm
going
like,
to happen.
I go, within hours, your serological evidence has rotted. You put it in paper bags. That's why there's paper bags available for this shit. And the detective squads, you put it in plastic. You've just ruined it. I was like, and this is supposed to be crime scene investigations. You figure they get the basic parts right. I was like, I can't do it.
But
And
one
oh,
of my favorites was Al Pacino football movie Any Given Sunday, which is Oliver Stone. It's really it's it's almost entertaining. And it's awful. It's so awful that it's funny. But there's one part where the team that the main story's about, they barely make the playoffs. They have to win the last game of the season to even make the playoffs. But then they get a bye week. Okay, so let me explain how bye weeks work. Only the two top teams in each division get a bye week. And that means that they don't have to play the week after the playoffs because they have the best records in
right,
football. So the only way a team that barely made the playoffs by winning the last game in the last season could have been a bye is if every other team in the division was terrible. So you would have had to have a season with six other 8-8 teams, and then they finished 9-7. That's the only way that could have happened. And at that moment, the whole thing to me fell apart. The whole movie because it was made for dramatic effect, so they could have a bye week, so all this stuff could happen during the bye week in the movie. Not because it made any sense. And it was obvious Oliver Stone had no clue what a bye week was.
right. Oh yeah,
or how they work, or why you would get a bye week, or what your record would have to be to have a bye week. It became extremely obvious that this guy has no clue how football really works, which then just took me out of the whole movie. But which I mean was a comedy, it was unintentional comedy anyway,
right.
because it was over the top. But
Well, I still remember, it goes back 6, 7 years ago, when I was at my local pub. They were going to film an episode of Law and Order SVU
oh,
in
okay,
the pub and at our local parish because they were going to do somebody was getting killed and they were going to do a funeral mass and then they were going to do the after funeral reception at the pub. It's a nice Irish pub. They scouted it out.
oh,
So a couple of days before filming, I was there having a few beers, and two showrunners were there, a guy and a woman, and they talked to the bartender, who retired cop, and he's like, "Yeah, I've been retired for like 30 years, but Eric here is in his last year." So I was like, "Oh, really? Can we ask you some questions?" I'm like, "Well, depends on the questions that you're going to ask me." But they asked me insightful questions about things like dress code and can a female officer have a colored streak in her hair? I was like, well, technically, no. Patrol guide, won't allow you to have unnatural coloring.
right,
But the reality is, nobody is going to tell a woman who has a streak of blue in her hair that isn't overwhelming that
uh-huh.
she's not conforming to the dress code because the moment you say that, you're going to get hit with an OEEO complaint that you are making a complaint based upon her gender. And I said, as a sergeant, I would probably just, as long as they're not no other problems, I'd let it fly. What about nail polish? I go, same thing goes, but I've seen some wackadoo nail polishes on female officers. Nobody's generally going to say anything. And I was happy to see them asking questions that you're not going to normally pop up
Right.
on, but say, would this be realistic? We'd like to do this. The patrol guide says you can't, but would it really happen? Yeah. So I was actually impressed that they were going that far for small details. And it doesn't always happen, I'm
And
sure.
so some shows are better than because some shows have an actual like I remember when ER was really big for like gosh, I ran for like 12, 13 years.
Oh, yeah.
They had real doctors that were that would consult and say, and that's why it was such a cool show because all the gobbledygook the guys would say were they were saying this is what you say, this is the dialogue, and
Right.
it got. I remember that show came out. God, it's been so long since ER was out, but I remember it got praised because it was that accurate. Because they're like, oh yeah, this is stuff you say when you're in there, but it was because their consultants were actual doctors that were telling them, yeah, here's what you say, you don't say. It's when you get the guys who don't actually hire a consultant about guns or about military shows are terrible too
Oh
sometimes,
God.
and or cops. So you don't have these consultants and they just say, oh well, I think this is what they do, or it's going to be more dramatic if we do it like this.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
one of my favorite, they had a funny thing about how they were talking about the latest John Wick movie, and they were talking about how silencers actually work about versus how they work in this movie. And they were firing silencers, which are pretty loud. They're not as loud as a gunshot's loud.
Right.
A silencer is like, where a gunshot's like, a silencer's like, you can still hear it.
Right.
It's not silent. And they were making fun of the John Wick movies that these guys are firing silencers each other through like a crowded train station and nobody's paying attention. But that's not how silencers work. They actually make a noise. But we, as most people, have never fired a silencer or heard one. We don't know. And so they rely on that, like, okay, well, yeah, we'll just do this scene because nobody knows what silencers sound like, or they don't use fire silencers.
Right. We're gonna do the TV silencer.
Yeah, they don't know.
You've always seen that in the. Oh, they got a silencer out. Oh my God! I heard nothing. I heard a. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
no,
it's
not quite.
I've heard a sound. It's a clap. It's loud. You can hear it. You can tell a shot's been fired. But it's not. Look, most people, when they fire a gun, the one thing that always surprises them is how loud it is, Eric. That's because you ever go out on the range. That's why you wear headphones. It is loud, and one of the things when you start firing guns, if you get into guns, is you got to become acclimated to the sound it makes, because it will cause you to jump. It's that loud, and most people do not understand how loud it is until, like, you see these movies where guys are fighting over the gun and the gun goes off like right here. You would not be able to hear for a fucking week if the gun went off that close to your ear. Now, I've seen some movies do it right, where it goes off and they're like, because it went off their ear. But most movies, it's like no big deal. They're just boom, 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 and they're fighting for the gun right here, and there's just no way, dude. It's too fucking loud. You're gonna have permanent hearing damage if you fire a gun that close to your ear.
Have you ever noticed that actors on cop shows rarely look like real cops? We're the mirrored sports shades, for example.
Yeah,
I listen. I worked with a cop who did the mirrored sports shades. He's also the one that got his penis pierced and enlarged, and was nice enough to go, Eric, did you drop $5? I went, what?
No.
I go, what the hell is that? Oh, I got the perfectly in hands for my wife.
It's disturbing.
Where's the $5? At least pay me
at least
for
pay
the suffering you put me through.
Look down at your dick, yeah.
Yeah. Thank God I was able to block that memory, mostly the visual memory out. I was like, oh, Jesus. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, gun kick's another one, Matt. You're right. Because, yes, my one of the funniest things to taking my wife was when my son took my wife to the range and watching that gun kick. That's when I knew she couldn't have a caliber higher than like 22 for her gun. The kick was just wiping her out. There's just no way. Yeah, good gun. Now sometimes shows do them right. They'll kick, the gun will kick and hit him in the head, or fly out. Because they're not used to what the kick is. But yeah, that's another thing they get wrong too. But yeah, that's always fun, because look, and whoever said this is right. Yeah, John says right. It's inspired by tropes from previous TV and movies. So they're like, this is the way an episode of Magnum PI did it back in 1980. That's supposed to be the way it is, because that's all I know about guns is when I watched Magnum PI back in the 80s.
Magnum PI is
and Magnum didn't have any problem. He was firing guns with one hand while he was running through the jungle, and he was hitting people, so that, they base it off old movies and TV shows, not off reality.
One handing the Desert Eagle 50. I got to hold one. I had a lieutenant who brought it in to show off. It was gold.
It's the most impractical gun ever. I don't understand why you'd own one, except it just looks badass. It looks badass, but
just holding it straight with one hand was damn near impossible. I had to support. I was like, dude. He's like, well, what are you going to use this for? He goes, I have it. I'm like,
I'd be afraid to have it for home defense, because it might go through 3 walls and the neighbor's wall. If you're firing it, you want a gun a bullet's gonna stop in the intruder, not one that's gonna go through 3 houses. Yeah, that's kind of an impractical gun. It's so gigantic. And
Yes, he's the
It's
same
almost too
lieutenant I
powerful.
had that used to go deer hunting on Staten Island with bow and arrow. Two things. Uh, there's no legal deer hunting in the confines of New York City, and there's no
Oh,
bow and arrow hunting. But he would go in public parks and hunt deer
oh
and
dear.
make venison chili, which was surprisingly good.
Okay.
Um, what can I tell you? They were New Jersey deer, right? They swim the river. That's where you get them from. So the environment's not made to support them. But the
No.
reason why there's no hunting in New York City is because, again, those bullets got to go somewhere. And
Yeah, yeah, that's like I said. That's what people don't understand about home defense weapons is you don't want something that's going to go through three walls and then the neighbor's wall, then the neighbor's wall, and yeah,
yeah,
you kind of want you want to have something that's going to stop in their body, and that's why I've always been freaked out about having shotguns for home defense because shotguns to me are a little tricky. You just don't not entirely sure where those pellets are all
oh,
going.
dude, you just come on, you just rack it and shoot it into the ceiling, right? That's what I told Rach. I'm going to get her a
Sure.
shotgun and pray.
Mm.
The president said this is how you do home self defense.
Oh, I forgot about that. That was hilarious. Yeah,
Yeah,
you just fire guns off your back porch. Yeah,
yeah, because shotgun.
that's
Now
yeah.
I will say a shotgun that you have to rack, a pump shotgun, is intimidating. I've seen that. I
Uh,
actually I saw our ESU cops do that on a car stop, and
just
uh,
racked it.
oh yeah, they walking up to the car, and they go, and then I hear as I'm driving up, and I was like, what the hell? We got to back them. I hear license, registration, proof of insurance. You went through that red light. I went. They're doing a car stop for a red light, and they had a rack of shotgun
What
because
was the? Did they have a hit on the license plate or something?
no,
Good lord!
no. They
Oh
just
my
they
god!
carry shotguns and they could do it. So they figured this was
Oh dear!
back in 98, 99 in the South
Oh
Bronx. And,
boy!
well, I guess you
Yeah.
never knew what you were going to stop. But I
Well,
mean, yeah,
intimidation's part of the game, I guess, too.
yeah,
So,
well, intimidated me, and I was in a
yeah,
marked
about to say
profile.
you weren't even there to be intimidated.
Yeah, I was just like, whoa, okay, never mind. Well, we really flew all over the chart today.
We had a that was fun, man. We started out with problems in the distribution chain. We ended up talking about guns, because we like guns. So, um, yes, this is what we do. We do hex crawls.
Yes, and we have
We
fun.
like hex crawls. We enjoy hex crawls,
And
folks.
and and we actually give a good example of a hex crawl because you don't know where you're going, but you do find your way from one location to the
Right,
next.
right.
We didn't roll a random die, right, to see what we were going to be from one hex to the next. That's not how we got to a
Um,
hex crawl.
Glenn, which Murder by Sweet is that which one was that? They made a couple of those. I think I need to. I haven't watched all the Marlowe movies. I watched a few, so I'll have to look at that. Yeah, I like it when they're accurate like that. They do things like that. There was a movie once. There was actually a writer. He wrote detective stuff, and his stuff is great because I think his name was Richard Elias. I can't remember, but anyway, he wrote a book once where this guy gets in a fight with a guy, and he hits him in the head with his gun, like hits him, and he kills him because when you hit someone in the head, you cause a subdural hematoma, you
Yeah.
know, and of course the movies people get knocked over the head all the time. They get knocked out and they wake up and they're all tied up and everything's okay, right? Well, this detective hits a guy in the head with the gun because he's fighting, and the guy dies. And he's like, "Oh shit, I didn't shoot him, but I'm gonna have to hide this body because the guy's dead."
Oopsie.
Yeah, that was oops. That's a mistake. You get. That's not like the TV shows you know, where McMillan and wife get punched in the head and they wake up tied up to a chair or something. No, it's much worse than that.
Listen, my best mystery science theater 3000 movie was Mitchell. Yeah.
Oh, but yes, that was with what's that? Pal? No,
uh,
what's the actor?
Joe,
Joe
no,
Don Baker.
Joe Don Baker. There we go.
Yes. Okay, I don't know what you're talking
It's like,
about.
oh, there he goes into a garbage can. Dumped into it. This is awesome.
Oh,
Oh, I don't need to suspend disbelief. I'm having too much fun.
how about when they get in a car wreck and their airbags don't go off? And you're like, wait a second, where's your airbag, dude? You just Right to that
Oh,
light
that's too
bulb.
expensive,
Well,
man. You
yeah,
want
that's
it to cost
expensive. And
for
plus,
airbag?
it gets in the way too.
Yeah,
You don't want to. You
that
don't want to airbag
powder.
pop.
You're gonna
Oh,
block the vision of the accident on the
what a
inside. Of
mess!
the
Yeah, we don't have no. This is a world where there's no airbags. We don't do that.
Dan, we normally do this every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Hmm.
On Friday nights, it's either myself with Glenn Hallstrom or Joe the Lawyer, again, 8 p.m. Eastern. Saturday nights, I do a 1 hour show or pretty much with my wife, Rachel. We talk about gamers' health and issues like that. Although, at the end of the month, I've been acquiring stuff for the yoga show, Mike. I
Oh yeah.
oh yeah, my niece did the shopping on Amazon, by the way,
Oh my, this is gonna
and
be great.
and there was stuff that my wife would go, no, you don't want to get that. That's too loud. She's like,
To
yeah,
reveal.
and my Shannon's going, Auntie, no, we don't want to get this because it's not tight enough.
Oh man, you got thrown under the bus, dude.
Oh yeah, no,
Dang.
we're gonna do good. We're gonna be raising money for St. Jude's Hospital,
Great.
and if it works out well, we may do other fundraisers throughout the year. Tenkar does yoga. My God.
Kinky.
Shannon's going to be in charge of the live stream, so she'll be the one
Oh
putting up the
boy, this is
comments.
gonna be fun.
Oh yeah, it's
So, and then we usually have guests on Wednesday. We haven't had the last couple weeks, but we'll get back in the guest groove in a little bit. But we usually have guests too, and we have soft spots for guys running Kickstarters, especially OSR guys running Kickstarters.
Chadzar. I have videos every day, including Sunday.
Hmm.
I don't post on Sunday. I have a guest poster on that one. Chris helps out and does the posts on Sunday. But yeah, I do 4 a week that are recorded and 3 a week that are live. 3, yeah, that's right. Something like that. Yeah. So if you like the show, subscribe. Comment after the live
Please hit the
stream.
thumbs up.
Hit the thumbs up.
Want,
Don't ratio us like
no
Scott
ratio. No,
Garibay.
you don't want to ratio us. We're fun. We're nice. Don't ratio us.
Yeah,
We don't say weird stuff like you can only play 5e. Otherwise you're ruining the world unless you play
right.
5e.
We do say things like TSR3 has yet to publish a game, so I don't know how they're
God, they
getting any kind of
still have it.
mileage. Oh, by the way, though, I don't know if did you see it? Were you the one that sent me the link to their recruitment page on Dragon's Foot?
Yes. Oh, that was pretty funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're dragging the bottom of the barrel at this point. I'm not saying they're to the bottom, but I'm just saying that that's not where you go to get to hire people for your company.
No.
Is a forum for a gaming site. You don't do that. Yeah.
Yep. So gonna be. I'm looking forward to their first product that isn't what was it? Games for Tots or whatever. The
repurposed dice.
oh yeah, no. So when they put out something that's actually OSR, and they don't have Giant Lands anymore because of the schism in the companies there. Joe the Lawyer is going to bring down the YouTube ban hammer. Only if we let Joe have a video feed. Joe does not do video feeds, which is probably for the best.
He doesn't. I still don't know what he looks like. So
you never seen what Joe looks like?
I have. I have seen old pictures of him.
Okay,
but he hides his identity, man. Come on, he's mysterious.
John, the game plan right now is yes, the Saturday night before Halloween. But again, we got to do it with my niece on the on the keyboard. Otherwise, we're not going to see all the wonderful comments from people, and and you won't be able to throw gold pieces at the screen with the
to get it turned off. I hope. Yeah, here's $50 to get it off.
I mean, I've
take it off.
The only weird thing that Shannon made me do is there were yoga pants with cats and taco cats.
Ooh.
And Shannon was like, "Uncle, you got to get that." I go, "Why?" Even if you just take your hikes in it. I'm like, that would mean being out in public.
Yeah, that's a bridge too far.
I don't know if it's for money.
Lou, I'm doing Game Hall next week, and I will be broadcasting from Game Hall. I'll try to find a special guest Game Hall. Since I'll be there, I'll try to corral somebody as a special guest. So we don't know who we're going to get. We may get people that walk by the booth. Maybe we'll be setting up a booth, and we can get people to walk by and hang out with us.
North Texas when we did our live stream.
Yeah, that'd be cool. We may do that.
Dan, it is all pretty much gamer stuff or gamer adjacent. This was definitely a hex crawl. We started off though; it was certainly very much gamer adjacent with the whole issue with the supply chains. And then we delved a bit into why you shouldn't play the.
You know, we didn't have this week. We didn't have any gaming stupid this week.
We did.
I mean, I guess we did. Yeah, we did. Yeah. We had.
We didn't announce it.
The weird gaming stupid.
And we did actually wait for the last half of the show to get into the this week in gaming stupid. Mm-hmm. Usually, we have our favorite publishers / theoretical game producers / potential game producers to give us some stupid shit. But yeah, we let Scott be that piece for us today. So I think that was. I don't think you could get much more stupid than Scott. So, weapons. Dan, you're really scaring me with this whole perseveration on weapon speed, because the whole idea that it only really made that in segments. You know what? Your whole 1E breaks down when you use all the rules because it plays like Pathfinder, and that battles never end because you never get into them. Did I say that? That's admitting that I know something about Pathfinder. So
I think it's time to move on.
Yes. Lanasa went to Dragonfoot. So yes, well, it wasn't Lanasa though. No, it was their PR guy. Whatever his name is. Right. I haven't seen the fake account do anything really good. Trying to catch up on comments. I think we're caught up. All right, folks. As always, thank you for your comments. You kept us going on tangents. You made this sandbox with random encounters the most awesome sandbox in the hex crawl.
Thank you, friends.
So really, thank you. This becomes better because of you. When without you, we literally become like public access TV, and we don't want that. Mm-hmm. As always, we are still in the midst of the world of COVID, right? That's why we have a lot of these distribution problems, these shipping issues. I'm going to tell you the same advice I give pretty much with every episode that I do. In this case, I'm vaccinated. Mike is vaccinated. I'm not saying you need to get vaccinated. You have to make decisions that are right for you, your health issues, your family. All I ask is that you make decisions using your common sense to keep yourself, your family, your friends, your loved ones healthy and safe. Be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice. I will be back tomorrow with just a regular episode. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. on the Tenkar Tavern Discord server. We will do a hangout. And Glenn, Friday, I may be in the Poconos. So fun times. I'll try to do it from the back porch in the dark with candlelight.
Oh, I love those. Those are fun.
It's gonna be romantic with Glenn. So, all right, folks. On that note, we're out of here.
Later, everyone.
Be good.